everyone, welcome to another Rick and Danny show. Rick, how are you today?
I'm doing well, Danny. How you been? I'm really excited about today's episode. It's always nice when we can get a smarter voice than myself involved on these conversations, and I think we're going to have a good treat for you there today.
Yeah, we have a great episode today. We have Dr. Ayed with us. Little clap. Thanks for joining us, Dr. Ayed. Dr. Ayed is at our North Side and Riverside offices. He's heading our bispecific antibody program, which we'll be talking about. And I thought it'd be a good welcome to hear more about where Dr. Ayed is from and when he joined the practice. Just a little background first before we get into our topic today.
Thank you so much, Danny. Rick, thank you guys for having me today. I'm happy to be here and very excited to talk about bispecifics. I'm going to go ahead and get started by sharing a little bit about myself. I am a medical oncologist, and I'm a partner physician with Cancer Specialists of North Florida. And as you had mentioned, Danny, I cover two of our locations. I go to the CSNF Riverside location where we do the initial ramp up and step up dosing for our bispecific treatments. And I also go to our North Side location. I completed my medical education in Jordan, in Amman at the University of Jordan, and left for the U.S. after that to pursue further education and training. My first home in the U.S. Is Gainesville, Florida, and so I'm going to have to say go Gators. And that's where I did my internal medicine training. And after that, I went on to do my fellowship in hematology and oncology at Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota. And then ultimately, I came back to North Florida. I fell in love with it here, and I had a lot of ties, friends. And so I interviewed in different parts of Florida, and North Florida still called to me. And so here I am. And I've joined Cancer Specialists of North Florida in 2018, and I've been with the group ever since.
I think that's another unique thing about this podcast is I think all three of us joined at almost the exact same time. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah. We're the same cohort.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was nice to join all together and just see how the practice has grown since then, right?
Yeah. Wow. No, absolutely. Yeah. It's been a wonderful ride so far, and only good things to come.
Definitely. Well, yeah, we have topic today, bispecific antibodies, and there's different names for these therapies that we're giving in a variety of different cancers. So I guess for the audience who might not have a lot of medical background in terms of what a bispecific antibody is,
and the radiation oncologists on this podcast, could always use a refresher as well.
We probably need a rudimentary kind of explanation of what a bispecific antibody and bispecific therapies are.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Yeah. And my apologies, Rick, there's no radiation involved here. So with that being said, bispecific antibodies, it's a fancy medical term that refers to a new class of treatment in oncology and in cancer medicine. And what these bispecific antibodies are, they're essentially proteins that are engineered in the lab, and they're designed to target two targets at the same time, or two antigens at the same. We refer to them as antigens. They're like molecules or structures on cells that would be recognized by the antibody, and it binds to them and attaches to them. And what a bispecific antibody does, it attaches to two different targets at the same time, and that's considered a breakthrough in the world of antibodies, because typically antibodies only recognize and attach to one target. And we all have naturally occurring antibodies that are produced by the immune system, but those only recognize one antigen or one target. Bispecific antibodies, however, they're not naturally occurring, and they are engineered in the lab, and they are designed to latch onto two targets at the same time. And where this comes in handy is where you design such an antibody to recognize and attach to a cancer cell, and at the same time uh, bind to the one of the cells in the immune system. And that way, you're bringing the two closer to one another, such that the immune system has a better chance of identifying the cancer, recognizing it, and targeting it more efficiently. So what we're doing is that we are ramping up the immune system. We're putting it into hyperdrive to more efficiently, more effectively kill cancer.
Mhm. Yeah. And these new drugs that have come out, these bispecific antibodies, there's all different types of targets out there because, different cancers have different antigen expression, and we need to kind of figure out which is the best target. And, they do this in clinical trials and find out which target is best for an individual cancer, and then develop these antibodies in the lab to hopefully bind to and recruit your immune system to help fight the cancer. And we're doing this at CSNF, and at the Riverside location, that was kind of our home base to start introducing these therapies for patients who are eligible for bispecific therapy, drugs. So can you tell us more about how that became a thing here at CSNF? How did we start the program at our Riverside location?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, these drugs have been they've been in clinical trial mode for a long period of time before they've become available as a standard of care that's FDA approved. And we were fortunate to have been part of some of the early clinical trials that looked at bispecific antibodies in lymphoma. That's kind of where it all started. We partnered with one of the major pharmaceuticals that was studying one of their drugs in clinical trials, and we were able to activate that clinical trial at CSNF. And we've developed a local protocol to ensure the safe delivery of the drug. It is worth noting, Danny, that bispecific antibodies that engage the immune system, so the ones that activate the immune system and directed towards the cancer cells, they can lead to potentially serious side effects. And that potential risk for side effects is highest in the first month or so of when a patient starts treatment. There is a side effect known as cytokine release syndrome, or CRS. And what it is essentially, it's overactivation of the immune system. It can look like a really bad infection, a really bad flu, or bad sepsis. And even though it's not driven by an infectious organism, it's primarily driven by just the immune system being overactivated. But it can have a picture that looks similar to a bad infection. And it's important that during that initial phase, where patients are at highest risk of this side effect, is that they are monitored really closely, and that they are monitored at a site that's adjacent to a hospital in case the patient needs to be hospitalized, admitted, treated with a higher level of care. And so we identified our CSNF Riverside location as being ideal for that because it is on the Ascension St. Vincent's Riverside campus. So it's literally next to the hospital. And if patients were to develop any serious side effects, we would admit them right away. We would co-manage with the hospitalist and ICU team and with the ER team. We would follow them closely, even when they're in the hospital. And so that's how it came about that we decided to choose Riverside as our location for starting patients on treatment. Now, with that being said, once that initial wave of side effects is over and the patient's on a stable dose and a stable regimen of the treatment and they're doing well, they are okay to go back to their home site where they can get this treatment closer to where they live, which would be very convenient for patients and their families. It's only the first few doses that they have to get at the Riverside location to ensure that their body adjusts and is able to handle the treatment, and then they can go back to their home location and continue to receive the treatment there.
Can we talk a little bit about, other than obviously the typical supportive things you would have in the hospital, is there anything else? My understanding is there are some specific things that the hospital needs to have in stock or carry for these patients who have the syndrome.
Yes. So it's imperative that any the cancer center that's offering and delivering these treatments have a very good working relationship with their hospital partner, and also to have a well-trained nursing team to field calls from patients and to address issues in real time. So things that need to be in place include having one of the potential antidotes for this CRS complication, the cytokine release syndrome. One of those antidotes is a drug called tocilizumab. We always carry that on site at CSNF, and we have an understanding with the pharmacy team at St. Vincent's Riverside that they always carry that, or they can make it readily available if there's a shortage. So that has come to play after a series of discussions and conversations with the clinical teams at the hospital. And patients who are undergoing treatment with these bispecific antibodies, they get a very close, they get enrolled in a very close monitoring program. And that includes both outpatient and inpatient. So if a patient ends up doing well and doesn't need to be hospitalized, they're still being monitored very closely. We have a team of nurses that use an app called the Canopy app to communicate with patients. They check in on them, especially when they're early on in their treatment. They report issues and side effects to the physician in real time to have the issues handled right away. So we have a very solid program in place to ensure not just the ability to give the drug, but to monitor for side effects, treat the side effects, and ensure that the patient stays on drug and benefits from it.
Yeah. Which patients, do you worry about the most having, a higher grade or a more severe cytokine release syndrome? Is it with certain disease types? Is it with tumor burden, age, other factors? What do you tell patients?
Yeah, so we worry about this side effect more with certain drugs and disease types. So, patients who have, for instance, multiple myeloma and they have a lot of disease and they're getting certain bispecifics that treat multiple myeloma, they tend to have a little bit of a higher risk of cytokine release syndrome. We also see it with patients who have aggressive lymphoma who are getting certain types of bispecific antibodies. We are very cognizant of the impact of these drugs and potential side effects on more frail patients, older patients. So patients who have less functional reserve or who are older have more health issues, more comorbidities, as we call them, they tend to get hit harder, so they're less resilient, and that's why it's important to monitor these patients in particular very closely and try to institute measures to mitigate these side effects. So sometimes we even resort to giving the antidote preemptively and not wait for the side effect to happen, even though the side effect is unlikely to happen. I'm referring to the cytokine release syndrome, because sometimes we just treat it preemptively on a case-by-case basis.
Yeah, some of the drugs actually require a hospitalization, right, for the first cycle in certain circumstances. But there are other drugs that allow you to give it in the outpatient setting and monitor and only hospitalize if needed. Is that correct?
Yes, yeah. So there are some drugs where it's highly recommended to admit the patient. However, there are protocols in place where you can potentially avoid a mandatory admission, sometimes by bringing in the patient the second and third day after the treatment to check on them in the office. Sometimes helps avoid an admission. Preemptive treatment of CRS helps avoid admissions. And there are some protocols that are being looked at where patients get a type of cortisone drug called dexamethasone. They get it for several days in a row to help reduce the need for hospitalization. So while some drugs do uh, require or highly recommend having the patient hospitalized, uh, that doesn't have to be the case for all patients. It can be, the decision can be individualized. Treatment can be customized and individualized. And sometimes we're able to avoid hospitalization altogether. And that can be very beneficial for patients because a lot of patients really don't want to be in the hospital. And there's a higher risk of catching an infection when you're in the hospital. Cost of care goes up when patients are hospitalized. So you can mitigate a lot of that by trying to proactively avoid a hospitalization in the outpatient setting.
And I would say some patients might say no to treatment if they know that they have to be hospitalized for the treatment. So, I think any
Yes.
patient would prefer to stay in our clinic and closely monitor and be at the comfort of their own home whenever
That is
possible.
true.
So, yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, the vast majority of patients would prefer to be treated closer to home and to go home after treatment whenever possible. And that's
Right.
what we strive to achieve, as part of our mission at CSNF to deliver care closer to home. And that's why we have locations all over Northeast Florida, to bring care closer to patients and not have them have to travel long distances to get the care they need.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah, I
also one
think
of the reasons why we try to bring clinical trials to the practice also, to make those available to patients rather than have them travel to academic centers in other cities.
Yeah, I think, I mean, to me, just on the surface, obviously, it's not the person giving the drug, but it seems like it's striking a good balance between safety for the patients, doing the right thing to have them in a controlled setting when the risk is highest, but then as soon as you can, transitioning to something that's more convenient for the patients, closer to home, and tries to ease that burden. So it seems like a good balance of trying to do what's right from a safety standpoint, and also then trying to do what's right from a convenience and ease of care for the patient. So no, I really admire sort of how you structured it. And I think I think the patients who've been in it that I've heard have been very pleased so far with how it works.
Oh yeah, thank you. And yes, to your point, even though the first, let's say 3 or 4 treatments need to be done at the Riverside location, most patients recognize it's just a very temporary thing, and they know they're just going to have to travel a little bit extra for that period of time, knowing that ultimately they're going to transition back to their home office for the long term. And it is absolutely for the reason you said, is for safety, to ensure patient safety. And
Yeah, I think when you go over most of these agents have very good efficacy. So when you go over the data with them, I have yet to have a patient be upset about going to Riverside for their first cycle, that everyone has been pretty willing to do that, understanding that these are some of the most effective therapies we have for lymphomas, multiple myeloma. Now with the small cell lung cancer drug,
yes. Mhm.
we've really seen some nice results, and I think patients are willing to travel a little bit for that. And one of our goals also, Dr. Ed, is getting more sites, so that as long as we have hospital partners to have another site that can do the induction, the first cycle of treatment, I think we'll have more options for patients that they can be treated at a couple different centers and not necessarily always have to go to Riverside.
Yeah, my hope is to ultimately have the other larger centers at CSNF be able to offer the initial ramp up and step up dosing, and that will definitely make it more convenient for patients. They'll have to travel less, and it'll also improve access to these treatments, because now we're getting more referrals. Physicians are recognizing that these are effective drugs, that they can be delivered in the community, that patients don't have to go to a large academic center to get these treatments. They can get it done right here in town, and not have to go elsewhere to get these treatments. So yeah, I look forward to that. And we are actually in the works of identifying other sites in CSNF where ramp ups and step up dosing are going to be feasible. And it's just like you said, what's key is to educate all stakeholders about the potential risks and ensure that there is smooth delivery of treatment, and a smooth workflow to allow for these treatments to be done the right way. And the stakeholders essentially involve the treating physician, the patient, and all and the physicians in the community, including the ER docs, ICU physicians, and the hospital physicians. And what we've done when we first rolled out bispecific antibody treatment at Riverside is that we in-serviced our partners in the hospital, and presented, we gave talks, we presented data and strategies to mitigate toxicity and side effects.
Dr. Ed, I had one other question. Sorry, I wanted to ask real quick. All three of us sit on the research committee. Obviously, you two are much more involved in the future of bispecifics and potential clinical trials. Ayed, what's been your experience working with some of these partners on the research side with bispecifics in a community program? Have you, I'm assuming, that mostly positive feedback? Has there been any resistance to it? Just kind of curious what your experience has been and sort of where you see the future heading in that regard.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So, most major pharmaceutical sponsors and drug manufacturers are increasingly recognizing that community sites are an excellent partner when it comes to clinical trials. And there's a greatly increased interest in partnering with community-based oncology sites for many reasons. First and foremost is that patients want to be treated closer to home. They want to be in the comfort of their home, close to their family, close to their support system. And also, community-based oncology clinics are able to deliver treatment in a very efficient way. There's generally less regulatory hurdles, less red tape. And we have proven time and time again that we're able to offer clinical trials and ensure proper adherence to protocol and proper adherence to all laws and regulations. And we are approached all the time by clinical trial sponsors to activate new trials. We review them at least once a month at the CSNF Research Committee, where several physicians attend and vote on whether a clinical trial is approved to activate at CSNF based on merit, based on benefit to patients. So overall, what I'm seeing is really a positive relationship and positive feedback from pharmaceutical sponsors for clinical trials. They are interested in working with physicians of the community, and they are making that they're making it feasible and making these trials available to all of us. So.
Thank you for that. Danny, do you think we can rope Dr. Ayed into sticking around to tell us some more on the next episode? What do you think?
I'm excited about that. Yep. Let's go to the next episode. We appreciate you, Dr. Ayed. We'll talk soon.